Welcome friends to another r/AmITheJerk video. I hope I don't sound like a jerk asking for it, but could you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by Throwaway02202022A. Am I the jerk for not putting my husband's children in my will? My husband Jack and I married later in life. We were both in our 50s. It was the second marriage for both of us. He has 3 children. I don't have any biological children, but I'm still very close to my former stepson Thomas that I helped raise. We were both very well off financially, Jack more than me. Jack owned his own business and was upfront that he intended that business to be left to his children. We signed a prenup before our wedding that basically said we get to each keep what we brought into the marriage. We kept our finances separate, though we both contributed to a joint account for the household expenses, which we split 50-50. We did our wills at this time. Jack left everything to his children, and I left mine to Thomas. We were both aware of what the other had done, and we were fine with it. Jack's business went under about 4 years ago. He was desperate to keep the business going, and poured all his savings into it. The business had been his grandfather's, and then his father's, and he was determined to be able to hand it down to his children. He ended up losing almost everything. He was completely devastated. Standard of living wise, not much changed except that I'm paying 100% of the household expenses. I love him and I'm fine with this. I had a health scare about a month ago where I realized that if I died, Jack would be left with nothing as my will gives everything I own to Thomas. I told Jack that I was planning to change my will. My plan was to put 1/3 of my assets into a trust for Thomas's children. He has 2 currently that both call me Nana, a 1/3 directly to Thomas, and a 1/3 in trust for Jack. I would set it up so that Jack would receive a generous monthly check, but that after he died, the assets in the trust would go to Thomas. I did it that way because I want Jack taken care of while he's alive, but after that, I want it to go to Thomas, not Jack's kids. Jack is furious that his children aren't going to receive anything. He kept pointing out that I have 3 stepchildren, not just one former one. Why are his kids getting nothing and Thomas everything? I should say that by the time we got together, Jack's children were grown. One already had a child and another was married. Other than the occasional holiday, I never lived with Jack's kids. While he's not mine biologically, Thomas is my son in every way that counts. While I get along with Jack's kids, we're not close at all. Jack's threatening to leave me over this. He keeps saying that if I don't care about his kids, that means I don't care about him. I've told him that's nonsense and that I don't respond well to ultimatums. We had planned to leave our assets separately before we were ever married. But now that he doesn't have money, suddenly he wants me to leave my money to his kids. Am I the jerk for not wanting to? Personally, I think OP is not the jerk. First and foremost, I believe your will should be completely up to you to decide however it possibly gets distributed. Whether anybody possibly deserves that money or not just by morals or ethics, I think it's still reserved to be your choice where that money and assets go. Second of all, I completely agree the dynamic is totally different. When you actually raised one of the kids, and they were literally your son for every meaning of the word, it's different than the fully adult kids your new partner already had. That dynamic and that relationship will just never be there. Do you guys think that in this situation, OP should leave money for Jack's kids? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Throwaway Issues RA. Am I the jerk for refusing to sign anything while my eyes are blindfolded? Ever since I got out of the hospital for chronic problems, my husband's been introducing me to some games every evening. One game used to be about doing things while my eyes are blindfolded, involving puzzles, Rubik's Cubes, shaped objects, etc. We'd take turns to do it just for entertainment. Just a couple of days ago, he's been trying to get me to sign papers while wearing a blindfold. I refuse to do it because he never lets me take a look at what I'm signing, neither before or after. He says that he was just trying to see if I could leave the same signature every time I sign, but I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. I told him I don't want to play this game unless and until he shows me the papers first. He said never mind then and stopped bringing it up. Last night, he tried to convince me to give it a try and even volunteered to go first. I asked if he was going to show me what I was going to sign, and he made a face and said, "No, it's the rules and I should respect them." I refused, and he kept on about how I kept acting worried and suspicious for no reason. He said I clearly don't trust him, and he was hurt by finding that out now after everything we've been through. We had an argument, and I told him to drop it and not bring it up again, period. He was mad despite saying it was no big deal. He was obviously upset with me and kept talking about how I don't trust him and that I was out of line to assume or suspect anything from him like this. I might be paranoid, but I couldn't help it. I do think I was the jerk to him after he stood by my side when my own family didn't even visit. It's one thing if you're doing it for fun on some blank construction paper, I guess. But the fact that this guy is basically admitting to there being actual papers that you're signing, because in any other world if you played this game, they would say, oh sure, it's just this blank paper. I would start sleeping with my eyes open around this person. I would put the blindfold on, go to write it, and just before I'm about to press the pen to the paper, snap the blindfold off and try to find what the heck they want me to sign. Shoot, even signing on blank papers is probably a terrible idea. This next story is by Striped Sweater 0410. Am I the jerk for calling my brother's girlfriend Tubby? I'm 15-year-old female. My 18-year-old male brother brings his girlfriend, 18-year-old female, to our house almost every day after school. I go to tutoring 3 days a week, and on these days that I come home later, I frequently find things in my room have been moved and sometimes even missing. My brother almost never comes into my room, so I know it's not him, so I suspect that it's his girlfriend. I told him to tell his girlfriend not to touch my stuff, and he seemed offended that I would accuse her. My best friend had given me a box of chocolate for my birthday, and I remember very clearly putting it in the drawer next to my desk. The next day, I had tutoring, and when I got home, I saw that it was gone. I of course assumed that it was the girlfriend. There was literally no one else in our house. I confronted her directly this time and asked if she could please return what she took, and not to go into my room again. She became super defensive and said she didn't know what I was talking about. I asked if she could dump out the contents of her bag, and she started crying, which made my brother yell at me. Finally, she admitted to taking the chocolate, and she pulled it out of her bag and threw it across the floor. It managed to slide underneath the stairs railing and exploded on the first floor. I asked her about the other stuff that went missing, and she admitted to all of it. I said, "Stay away from my room, Tubby," which caused her to absolutely bawl like I'd never seen before from anyone her age. My boyfriend then told me off and said I should apologize to her. I said, why should I apologize to a thief? And I went into my room. She hasn't come over since that happened. I don't know what's going on exactly, but I don't really care. My brother said she's really insecure and has low self-esteem, she's quite overweight, and that what I said was completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk? So, while in this situation, I think I would personally feel bad after the fact for unknowingly attacking an insecurity of theirs and making them feel bad about themselves, I still would have an overwhelming feeling of they deserved it. I think OP's not the jerk. Anybody getting stuff stolen from their room, especially treats that they were saving for themselves that they were looking forward to, would probably do just about the same thing. In fact, a lot of people would say what OP did was rather restrained. This next story is by Trees50956. Am I the jerk for making my stepson walk on his engagement night? The title sounds bad, but hear me out. My stepson Rowan, 23, just got engaged to his fiancée. She comes from a highly conservative family, and they both won't live together till after marriage. They're both on great terms, and I have to say her parents are a bit much, so the engagement party was held at a restaurant. I drove my wife, Rowan, and his best friend Jack there because Rowan's car needed some work. Things went quite well, party ended, and everyone went home. On the way back, I had to stop by the store so I could grab something for our 16-year-old son. Rowan, Jack, and I waited in the car. Rowan and Jack kept laughing, then this young lady walked towards us because her car was parked next to mine in the parking lot. Rowan kept trying to speak to her while she was trying to load her stuff in her car. He and Jack kept throwing words at her and she seemed annoyed. Jack then said, "Hey, he just wants to look at that butt." Then Rowan said, "Let me see a jiggle, baby." I was appalled. I told them both to knock it off, but then Rowan sarcastically replied, "Relax, I was just giving her a compliment. Bet she doesn't get many of those often." The lady got in her car, and I started arguing with him about his behavior and shamed him for acting like this on his own engagement night. He argued back saying something about my car, and I lost it. I told him to get out immediately. Jack got involved, so I kicked him out too. My wife got back and started engaging in the argument, saying I can't let her son walk home from his engagement party. I replied that her son can't be harassing other women on the way back from his engagement party, but she kept defending him. I told her to either stay or get in the car. She did, and I drove off. Rowan didn't come home, and my wife gave me heck for it. We later found out that he was staying at one of his guy friends' place. From what I understand, he's pissed at me and refusing to see me. My wife said it was my fault. I escalated the situation over some stupid crap boys his age do all the time. I told her he can't do this while in my car, but she took it as I was holding it over his head. She said I should have never have made him walk the night of his engagement and demanded that I apologize to him. Was I the jerk for kicking him and his friend out of the car on his engagement night? Somebody needs to post that gif of Drake getting up out of his seat clapping. This poor lady at night is just trying to put stuff in their car, and these couple of jerks are catcalling and harassing her. I don't care who it is, it could be the Pope. It's not acceptable, they don't get a pass for it because it's their engagement night. And in fact, that's kind of shocking that they would do it on their engagement night. Like, if there was one night to even hold back that kind of catcalling BS. Our next story is by Throwaway011381. Am I the jerk for not giving my Switch to a relative for free? I, 25-year-old female, have a Nintendo Switch and a few games. A week ago, my cousin's family came over for a vacation in the US. They have kids who are about 8 and 5. They asked if they can play on my Switch. I said sure, and picked out an age-appropriate game for them. About an hour later, they gave it back and said thank you. Later that night, they were excitedly talking about the Switch and how I was really nice. My cousin's wife spoke out and asked if I can give them the Switch for free. I looked at her like she's crazy and told her heck no. She got offended and told me I'm too old to be playing on it, which I responded with, "You're too old to be begging for video games." She got even more offended and started yelling at me. She refuses to talk to me. My cousin's on my side, but my mom's chastising me about how I should keep peace. I'm sorry, but in what world would you ever give up your $300+ console? This isn't some Christmas gift or birthday gift that you're just tossing their way. This is something you paid for yourself with your own hard-earned money that you obviously want for yourself. It's like if I went to that person's house and watched something really nice on their TV, and at the very end saying, "Wow, that TV's so nice. Can I have it for free?" It's like, no, of course not. OP's definitely not the jerk. Our next story is by Annual Customer 7. Am I the jerk for not punishing my daughter for ruining her stepfather's briefcase? I, 34-year-old male, have a 10-year-old daughter, Ava, with my ex-wife. We were together until she was 7. We each got half custody at that time, but it currently is every other weekend at her mother's house. She remarried to someone I'll call Rob, who has 2 sons, who he clearly favors over our daughter, who he seems to hate. I've expressed concern at the way he seems to feel about her, but have been shut down. Last weekend, Rob and my ex went on a weekend trip where they had to drive for 3+ hours each way. On the way back, Ava was sitting in the 3rd row of their minivan and got sick. She ended up throwing up all over Rob's new fancy briefcase that probably cost $200. He was mad because they'd given her something to throw up in, and she purposely threw up on his briefcase. He said that he didn't think she should be able to see her horse or take lessons until it would pay for a new briefcase for him. And after I picked her up, texted me that. Her mother boards a horse at the same barn Ava goes to, and so she saw her and was very upset that I wasn't honoring the agreement. I didn't think it was reasonable, and I didn't agree to co-parent with some idiot who hates my child, so I have no reason to enforce his punishments. Her mother says I'm undermining her authority and being a jerk. Am I the jerk for not punishing her? As the child's sole father and one half of custody, you have absolutely every right to parent your child the way you see fit, as long as it's within legal means. I say OP's not the jerk, and personally, kids are going to throw up sometimes. 10-year-olds make mistakes sometimes. I'm sorry about your briefcase, but what are you gonna do? Make them work it off? I think it's pretty disgusting that they think a 10-year-old is targeting them by throwing up on their briefcase. Like as if a 10-year-old girl on the verge of throwing up was having some secondary plan in the back of their mind to ruin their stepfather's briefcase. And not just focused on, I don't know, how bad they're feeling. I think the dude needs to get over himself. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.